Happy New Year and 2023. I cannot believe that we are already in 2023, but we're here. So let's start the year with some intention, and more specifically, how to create kick-ass intentions. It's that time of the year when many of us are setting our New Year's resolutions. And when it comes to resolutions, it's a beautiful idea, right? The idea of saying, I want to create this, I want to step into this into the new year. But the problem that comes with these resolutions is that of the about 50% of people who set New Year's resolutions, about 90% don't see them through to the end. And with that knowing, we have the opportunity to do it differently, to be a part of that 9 to 10% of people who actually do see that to the end. I am somebody who I set intentions, I set goals, and prior to this year found that I wasn't sticking to most of them. In fact, I would complete about less than 10%. But I had a year, this most recent year, 2022, where I actually completed over 50%, which is over 500% improvement from what I had done in a previous year. And that is what I want to talk about in this podcast, is some of the things that I took on and embodied that helped me to have my intentions and my goals come to life in a way that they never have before. So in this podcast, we'll be talking about, one, what are some of the things that I felt worked and what didn't work, some of the do's and the don'ts, and also the difference between intentions and goals. So that way when we set our intentions with our goals, they actually work conjunctively versus maybe being a little bit lost on how they work. So that way we can land on having kick-ass intentions that inspire us and help us to produce the type of results and the being that we want to experience in our everyday lives. So cheers to you, cheers to 2023. Let's make it a good one, and I hope you enjoy. Hello and welcome to another edition of the Follow the Wolf podcast. Right off the bat, I just want to let you know I am both excited and simultaneously very nervous about this excitement, because this will be the first podcast like this where I do it solo in this way. And when I say in this way, I mean with a lot of intention. Like, I really thought about in detail what I wanted to share in this. And I think it plays perfectly into this conversation about learning how to set intentions in a way that produces the results that we want to see in our lives, but also has us feel more connected to ourselves, more connected to how we want to live. So our being and our doing are actually in harmony. And when I say that I am nervous, it's because there is the part of me actively working through the belief, like, am I allowed to share in this way? Am I allowed to share things that have personally touched my life and added value, and not feel like I'm coming off as this, whether it's braggadocious or guru or anything like that. I have this strong aversiveness to wanting to be posed as somebody who has the answers, because I don't think that I have the answers for anybody else. I think that you have the answers for you. And it is through sometimes reflecting and connecting with others that we get more connected to what our truth is, or we get more connected to a truth, a universal truth that allows us to feel more connected again to ourselves, and thusly what it is that we want out of our lives. So as we're moving through this, really the intention of this podcast, as I mentioned, is around intentions. I'm going to be sharing a few things. One is my intention for 2022 and how it played out, along with my intention for 2023, mostly to be able to point a finger at what worked and what didn't work for my intentions, what I learned, and what I'm going to be doing differently heading into this new year. So we're going to be talking about what is the difference between a goal and intention. It's something that I've been thinking about more frequently. Also, the do's and don'ts of intention setting, and more like suggestions. Like, here are some things that I found that don't and do work, at least for me. And as always, with any of this information, I think it's incredibly important to keep the quote from Bruce Lee in mind, which says, absorb what is useful, discard what is not, and add what is uniquely your own. Because I'm going to share some thoughts, I'm going to share some opinions, I'm going to share some ideas. And The majority of this is coming from either my experience or observing the experiences of others. So whatever you hear today, take it, put it on trial against your own experience, and set the intention to lean in maybe when something I share is maybe contrary to what you've experienced or respected, and like maybe like, okay, like, can this further what I already believe, or is this something that I don't need to add to my own repertoire? Filter it through your experience. That is going to be your greatest teacher. You are your greatest teacher. You have the source of all the information that you need within you, and these are just mirrors and reflections. So I want to start with talking about 2022. So 2022 is officially over by the time that this will have been released. Of course, for me right now, it's like last week of December. But at the conclusion of this year, I decided to reflect a little bit on my original intention, or my chief intention for this year, which I'll talk about what that is. But from 2022, my biggest intention was to show the fuck up, because I realized that the times in my life when I showed up consistently in the areas of my life that I valued, I saw more of the results that I wanted in my life happening there. My being and my doing was aligned, but I realized I also wasn't showing up in all of the areas of my life, from my connection with spirituality, to my health and well-being, to my finances, to my key relationships with my family, my friends, and my partner. Whatever that domain was, I noticed that there were some areas that were working really well and some that weren't. The ones that were working, I was showing up, and the ones that weren't, I wasn't showing the fuck up. So I set that intention, and on one hand, it went really well. Objectively, from a result standpoint, there's kind of like two different buckets I'll put it into, and I'm kind of shorthanding these notes. So on the professional side, or like the business side, I've had a coaching business now for a few years. We produced, it was 6+ events. I don't remember the exact number right now. I wish I had like found that information, but 6+ events, and we served over 300+ people, which to me was a pipe dream not too long ago. I was like serving people, being supportive, like holding space for others to do the deep work. I was like, holy crap, like, wow, like we really did something there. Like that was really powerful for me. In that process of being able to serve and support people, we also, my business personally doubled in income, which I had this longstanding belief as a business owner that I wasn't a good business owner. I didn't know how to make money. So for me, that was a real win. I was like, wow, like I more than doubled my income. Okay, great job. On a personal level, I tripled my reading speed. So I was working on wanting to learn quicker, process quicker. So I was able to triple my reading speed. I read, it was like, I think it was 6 books this year. Last year, I'd only read once. So that was like a 500 to 600% increase, if you will, in productivity, which next year it's going to be even more. My goal is at least 12. I'm going to just keep doing that, like compound, start small, build from there. But that was a real win. I paid off somewhere between like $7,000 and $8,000 in debt, and also saved $10,000 in my emergency fund, which even just last year, there was this longstanding belief that I didn't consciously believe this, but there was a subconscious belief that I wasn't worthy of money, that I wasn't going to be able to attract the type of financial abundance that I truly wanted. And I didn't really have a plan. I didn't know what I was doing. And this year, I made a commitment that I was going to change that, and I did. I'm officially debt-free. I have money in my emergency fund, and next year it's going to be even greater. It's going to be even bigger. It's going to be even better. And that, I would say, is also the byproduct of the showing the fuck up. Like, okay, I'm going to be here. I'm going to do this thing. And I would say perhaps the most important to me was my mental health, my energy, and my overall being present in life, like really being present, being here, being now. Whew, skyrocket. It's not the easiest for me to measure and say 200-300%, 10 times. That is not the easiest thing for me to do. But it's more so the felt sense, and the felt sense of my anxiety and my depression, which I'd struggled with severely for years, significantly decreased. Do I still have bouts where I get anxious or stressed? Absolutely. Do I have bouts where I get depressed and lethargic? Absolutely. But the duration of those bouts, significantly less. I could have gone like, I went at one point over a year being in a bout, and then months, and then a week, and then days. there have been points now where I get into a funk and I'm able to recover in days, sometimes hours, sometimes minutes, because I've implored the tools, the consistency. I showed up. I showed the fuck up for myself. And I walk myself through that. And I don't share this to like, woohoo, look at me. It's more so like I'm realizing what's possible when I am intentional. Now, the flip side to this coin, the dark side, if you will, right? So these are like the pros, right? Sometimes we don't always point at the full spectrum picture. What does the other side of the coin look like? Well, what did you sacrifice in that process of, like, if you will, showing up with intention? Well, showing up, not showing up with intention. A little sneak peek there. Showing up, showing the fuck up. So cons were, one, I said yes to everything. Or at the very least, I said yes to a lot, meaning I was putting my time and my energy in more spaces than I needed to be. It was like, it's like Play-Doh. When you take Play-Doh and you stretch it, if you stretch it too far, it breaks. And that felt like me. I was wanting to do everything from podcasting and coaching and working a full-time job, being in a relationship, being there for my friends and my family, producing a bunch of events, doing all these different things that, yes, I want to do. And I needed to be more intentional with how I was going about doing that. Because in my spreading myself thin, one, I absolutely decreased some of my results. Now, that's something I don't immediately have the numbers to, like, oh, I lost this much income, I had this much stress. Like, again, harder for me to calculate, but I know with certainty that financial freedom was missed for me. I actually induced a lot of anxiety and stress through that way of being, of frenetically, I think is the word, like very frantically bouncing from thing to thing, from one business to another business, to events, to podcast, to job. It was this constant switching of my focus. If you think of it like a computer and you have a Google browser, whatever browser you use, Safari if you're an Apple user, you have different tabs. The more tabs that we have open and the higher demand of those tabs, the more it eats up the RAM of your computer and it slows it down. It doesn't work as well. And our brain and our bodies work in a similar way. When we have too many open tabs, it's anxiety inducing. It's stress inducing. It takes us out of the present moment because we're in our head, losing our freaking minds. At least I'm losing my mind when I get to that place. So I didn't feel as deeply connected and grounded in myself as I could have been. Which, yes, I want to produce results. I want to create financial freedom. I want to serve more people and pay off debt and all that. I want all of that. And I don't want it to come at the cost of my peace of mind. Because as my friend Kayla Hahn says, if it costs me my peace, it's too damn expensive. So that led me, in reflecting on 2022, to setting my intention for 2023, which I initially pointed out earlier about this idea of a chief intention, because there are, in my opinion, like different, for myself, I have like different tiers of intention. I have like the one thing that I want to focus on. I would call that my chief intention. And then I have the, if you will, like supplemental intentions. These are ones that are also important and they build up my chief intention, but the chief intention is where I'm going to filter the majority of my focus. And that is, for 2023, to show the fuck up with intention. To slow down more. To pause more. To really think about, is this thing that I want to put time and energy into, is it aligned with my larger vision for my life, for my goals? Yes or no? Okay, yes, check, cool. Additionally, is it furthering the goals that I currently have in front of me? Not adding it so I add more goals and again spread myself thin, but is it furthering what I'm up to, or is it going to take me out of what I'm doing? I have to get really clear about what my main focuses are. Having intention is knowing what it is we want to focus and spotlight. And for me, I'm really spotlighting my health, my pace, my financial well-being, my connection with others, and not doing so in a way that it completely stretches myself. It's being more intentional. It is taking that pause, because then I can produce more results than I could have ever have dreamed of. Like whatever I came up with, more than that. And my being can be right from a place of centeredness. And we all have that possibility when we come with intention. So that, for me, is an example of a chief intention. Show the fuck up with intention. And I have supplemental intentions. Like one of them is let my freak flag fly, because I've been working on self-expression and letting all of me be witnessed all of the time. Now, that's probably a little bit like off the deep end in terms of that, but like being more myself more consistently versus, oh, well, I'm over here with my family, or I'm over here with certain groups of friends. I'm only going to show you a little bit. That's not to say that I am being fully myself at the expense of others and I do it to make other people uncomfortable. No, it's more so like being mindful of others and to not silence my expression. That's important to me. It's also important for me to set and honor my pace, my speed. I don't need to look at what the fuck else everyone else is doing and how quickly they're moving and the results they produce or how much money they have, or the whole keeping up with the Joneses, like, oh, that person went and traveled here, oh my goodness, my life, like having the whole, what do they say, comparison is the thief of joy. I don't need all that shit. I just need to do me, and I do me really good, I'll be really happy. So those are supplemental intentions, really important, and they feed into my chief intention. So hopefully by this point, you're starting to get a bit of a clearer idea or image of, one, what having a good intention can look like, or at least like, what I'm saying is a good intention for me. How I had an intention, I was like, okay, that was good. Here's how I can do it even better. Here's how I can have it be more aligned, more in my being, in a pace that works for me. So let's talk about then how to set intentions, or starting to build out the process of setting intentions. And again, these are just some of the things that I have felt have served me. So you take what works and apply it to you, because this is meant to be interactive. I don't want this to be something that you just listen to and like, oh, that was a good idea. Yeah, that was a good insight. But the distinction between an insight and a breakthrough, that gap from I know a thing to I am embodying a thing, is action. And taking aligned action. It's taking intentional action. So there is going to be something to do at the end of this. And I want to put that in your mind because it's very important. It's perhaps the most important thing. So setting intentions. Well, first is, what is the difference between an intention and a goal? This is something that I've been thinking about throughout this year, especially, and I've gotten tripped up on it a few times. So I decided just to keep it really simple for myself. And that is that a goal is a desired outcome. X marks the spot. If I go on Google Maps and say, here I am in Florida, I want to go to California. California is my goal. Florida is my starting point. Intention, on the other hand, for me, is a way of being. Meaning, between point A and point B, between Florida and California, how do I want the drive to be? The journey. How do I want the journey to be? Do I want it to be frenetic and crazy and spread thin and oh my goodness, I'm all over the place, freaking out? Or do I want to enjoy myself? Roll down the windows. For some reason we have a manual window. Here I am just like rolling it down. Whatever. Let the sun come in. Feel the warmth of the sun. Enjoy the smell of whatever nature is throwing out. Hopefully they ain't throwing out gunky stuff at us. You're like, oh, it smells like gas. I don't like that smell. Hopefully we got like a nice fresh smell. Do I want to enjoy it? Or do I want to forget it? Like I moved so quickly, I really missed every single step of the ride, the journey. That, to me, is why intentions are so fucking important. Because if we always go through life going from point A to point B, but not enjoying A.1, A.2, A.3, A.4, A.5, like every single module, if you will, in that direction, we're going to miss out on life. Because next thing you know, you go A to Z, and Z, end of the alphabet, it's the end of our life. Because it's going to come to an end, at least in this form. Why wouldn't we want to enjoy the journey? So that really is the possibility with intentions. It is saying that this is how I want to be. This is how I want to show up. This is the energy I want to embody as I'm going through this journey from point A to point B. And maybe we might just find that in being with our intention, we actually start to enjoy the journey more. I will enjoy the journey more of showing the fuck up when I'm doing it with intention and knowing why I'm here. So, from an intention standpoint, let's talk a little bit about some not to-dos of intentions. And these are mostly playful. But one is, when we're setting intention, let's not make it lame and boring. Boo! We don't want no lame ass intentions. We don't want to set it and forget it, meaning I'm like, I have this intention, like I want to show the fuck up, and then I never revisit it ever again. In fact, if I combine those two, lame and boring, it's like, I want to do stuff. I am bored. I already fell asleep. Here I am standing up, sleeping. We want it to excite us. We want it to energize us. Thinking about it, feeling into it. It needs to enliven. And also, we don't just want to forget it, set it and forget it. We want to keep it in our awareness. I'm already getting the to-dos. I got to pause myself, getting too excited. And the last thing is, this is, okay, by the way, this last one is like optional and but not like controversial, but it's optional because different people have different opinions. But the last one for me is to not talk about it. Not to do, not talk about it. You're using all of your double, triple, quadruple negatives. Yes, I am. I'm going to eat them all up. I personally have found that I have had greater success when I've shared my intentions with other people. One, because it adds a layer of accountability. Like, oh, people are thinking about what I'm saying. In fact, I had somebody just a week ago, a really close friend of mine, ask me about how my intention went and say, yeah, I remember you said that in the beginning. How did it go? And we even talked about like my intention and his intention heading into the new year and how I was simply refining it. People remember. And now there's more energy coming into the intention through us sharing it. So I think personally that sharing it creates an involvement, creates an enrollment. It also makes it real because no longer just floating in our head. It's in reality, which brings me to the do's. One is it needs to be inspiring. It needs to have a clear why. I am inspired by the idea of showing the fuck up with intention. The why being because I want to have a fuck yes life and I want the energy of my journey to be one that is peaceful, passionate, productive, playful, all the P's. I got all the P's today. Then, once I've gotten inspired and have a clear why, I want to ground it. I want to write it out and revisit it often. Like at first, until it's embodied, visit it daily. Write it down, carry it with you. Make a screensaver on Canva and put it on the back of your phone, or write it down and put it at your desk or something. Put it on your wall. Revisit it often, but we want to keep it alive, and how we keep it alive and in our awareness is putting our focus or our attention on it, because where attention goes, energy flows. So if we don't bring our attention to it, there's no energy flowing to it. Our intention dies. Doesn't get the love that it needs if we think of it like a plant. You can't just set it in the ground and just forget it. Of course, maybe if you put it in certain spaces. My plant people be like, hey, that's not true. Listen, like I'm still learning this stuff. But if I were to just take a plant, stick it in a pot, and then put it in a dark space and never attend to it, unless it was one of them crazy hybrids that grows in the dark and doesn't need any love, special plant, we need to give it our attention. We need to give it water. We need to give it sunlight. We need to give it our love. Because when we give it our love, it is going to grow more lumptuously. I don't even think that's a word. Lusciously. There we go. I was like voluptuous and luscious. Lusciously. We want this to be the beautiful growing plant. And that happens through us grounding it and revisiting it often, which leads to the final point, which is in that process, we embody it. We live it. And we compassionately call ourselves out when we are not. Because we do want to hold ourselves to account for our intentions. It's not saying when we don't do that, we beat ourselves up, but rather when we don't, we say, okay, I didn't follow through on that. How can I do that more fully next time? How can I be my intention? Because every single day, hour, minute, and second that we pour into our intentions and our goals, we start to collapse the space-time continuum, attract, vibrationally resonate, and bring toward us the experiences that we want out of our lives, whether it's more money, more affinity, more and deeper connection. Anything that we want is possible. I believe this. Even though present day, I say this, I haven't produced all of the major results I want out of my life yet, but I believe it and I know it's going to happen because I've started to taste it. And it was through that beingness of showing the fuck up. For me, doing this podcast, an example, an expression of showing the fuck up with intention. I literally created this, took a note. I wrote things like I have like a little note here to like remind me, like these are the things I want to discuss. I took the time to slow down and get clear about what it is that I wanted to talk about. That way I wasn't just a rambling head. I pushed past my resistance, the imposter syndrome of wanting to record this. All of that was inside of my intention, even though I was met with a lot of resistance and denied myself a number of times, and I'll own that. The goal here with our intentions is to be intentional, to live life intentionally. So when we do come to the final moments of our life, we can look back, not in regret, but in joy and gratitude, appreciation for the fact that we fucking did it. We fucking did it. You, me, we fucking did it. How this, well, really the larger conversation of like dreams. How do dreams come to reality? How does a beautiful vision for an exciting future come into reality? One word: action. Once we have our vision, we have our intention, we've aligned, we've gotten centered on what it is that we want to create, we need to take action. So this is my call to action, my request of you, if you were open to it, is one, I want you to create a chief intention. Sit down. Set aside intentional time. If you want to really go for it, set a timer for 10 minutes. What are some intentions that I want to set for 2023? You write down a bunch of supplemental, but then get to that chief one, the one that is going to drive and propel the rest of them forward. Write down your chief intention. Build out your supplemental intentions if you'd like. Once you've built out your chief intention, share it. Alexa, turn off. Alexa's like, I need you to know my intention too. Get your chief intention. Share it with at least one. The goal is 3 people. And the third one is, if you're listening to this, send me a direct message on Instagram at followthewolf, and the E and the is a 3. And let me know what it is. Because I want to know. I want to get connected to your intention. I want to put energy into it with you. We all have the possibility of creating a life and a future that excites us. And when we can take our individual intention, get excited about it, share it with others, now our individual intentions become a collective intentions. The energy going into those intentions goes through the roof. And now shit starts happening. Miracles start to happen. We all have that possibility. So, in all of this, take some time, reflect, sit down, create your chief intention, share it with your people, share it with me, and let's head into 2023 knowing what the fuck it is we want out of our lives. Who do we want to be? Where do we want to go? Because when we do this, one day at a time, 1 hour at a time, 1 minute at a time, 1 second at a time, this is what is going to create the life that we've always wanted and always deserved. So from me to you, I love you. Cheers to a kick-ass 2023. And I look forward to revisiting this and reconnecting with your intentions at the end as we head into 2024. So much love. And we'll see you on the flip side. Peace. Thanks for tuning in. Please subscribe and share this with your people. Big love, fam.